You are listening to the ReRACEables Podcast. Hello and welcome to the ReRACEables Podcast. I'm your host, Tom. I am joined by two very special guests today, Will and James, the champs. They're here from season 32 of The Amazing Race.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for being here, guys. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
So I want to start off, we'll get to the race, but I want to start off and talk about the wedding. I got married this year too.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was a battle. It was an uphill battle, but it's been a while since the engagement. But what's the status with the wedding? Were you able to have it? Were you not? Was it impacted?
So we were supposed to get married in October, but COVID is a thing. And so we had to push it back, which was kind of a blessing in disguise though, because we're getting married in New Orleans. And a lot of our friends and family didn't really understand why. And I think now that the finale has finally aired and they saw everything play out the way that it did, there's just more of a significance and more oh my gosh, of understanding behind it that will make our wedding day even more special.
Yeah.
So is everyone from the show invited? Is Phil the officiant? What's happening there?
Oh, I wish Phil would come officiate. That would be cool.
I feel like D'Angelo is trying to get that spot too, to be honest.
Yeah, all the teams are invited, and we've had 2 years with the teams, and those are the only people you can talk about the experience with. So we've gotten really, really close. And it's been a blessing and a curse, the 2-year period. So, I mean, obviously all the teams are invited. We love everybody.
And now we're even more excited because we really wanted to reunite and make a big deal out of the finale. We all had plans. We've talked about it for 2 years to we're going to go off on a high note. And because that didn't happen, everyone's now your wedding will be the finale. So it's going to be a two for one celebration.
Yeah. Can we see the ring?
Oh yeah.
Excellent. Beautiful.
And it's matching. Are you wearing yours?
It's right here. I don't have it on right now.
Come on, Will. So Will, did you really carry the ring around the entire race? Because I've bought an engagement ring and it's an intimidating thing to kind of carry around even in your home or hide it and things like that. I can't imagine having it on floating gardens and throughout the world and on many boats and many planes and checking it through customs. I can only imagine. Did you really carry it the whole time? How did that go for you?
When we first got there for the start, they go through all your bags and the ring. And one of the production people helped me hide it from James. So he didn't see it. So the whole race, he didn't see it. It was tucked really deep in my backpack. I would move it around so he wouldn't see it because we knew what was in each other's bag the entire time. And then that final leg, I put it in the fanny pack so that it was easily accessible, just in case we won or whatever. So I definitely had to keep it with me, but it's a ring that's traveled the entire world.
It's true.
That's unbelievable. So how did the winning impact the wedding plans? Did it play into that at all?
I mean, definitely the location of where we're getting married. It had a pretty big impact on that. Other than that, I mean,
but I think it's also just made it very possible for us to have the wedding that we want. Really, with how crazy this year has been and looking ahead, and everybody wants something to be excited about and something to do to celebrate. And I think we're able to us. It'll be our, the big moment where all our families and friends get to share it together. Because, we haven't seen anybody in
months?
10 months.
Yeah.
I know. And that was the hardest part for us too. It was the wedding had to be altered and it couldn't be quite the celebration that we wanted it. I can only imagine for you guys. I'm sure you're feeling the same way. Let's turn to the race. So you guys won. You won $1 million. That's unbelievable. You won the Amazing Race.
Yes, it's overwhelming.
It's unbelievable. Congratulations. Can I ask you, do they just give you a check? Is it just, do you just go to a bank?
I have no idea.
Do you keep it?
I like thinking about the amount of zeros, I like can't,
Right.
my brain can't comprehend what that actually means. Cause like I'm not like wealthy in any way. So my brain just can't wrap itself around it.
It's an insane reality that they just hand you, here you go. And then you just go to a bank and all right, we'd like to deposit this. Like that's an insane reality. And I hope you keep it. That would be a cool like centerpiece to kind of be like, yeah, so here's our living room and oh, here's our $1 million check that we won. I mean, that would be, I know I would want to look at it and talk about it. That's kind of cool. So tell me, why did you guys win?
Oh, I think first off, I think the race really is designed for any team to win. I think everyone had an equal opportunity to get to that spot, right? I think maybe what maybe gave us that extra edge going into the race is how much we prepared. We did everything you can imagine. We studied maps, we studied flags, we learned 7 different languages and 6 key phrases use when interacting with locals or taxi drivers. We went back and rewatched so many seasons of the race, took notes of every season, not only on like things that played out, but just different strategies teams use that either hurt or helped them get further. And I think because of all of that preparation, everything we did, we were able to go into it with a little bit of a confidence to us. And it helped us just execute and carry out the plans that we knew we wanted to accomplish while competing.
And every like pit stop, we would sit in the hotel rooms and go through every single scenario that could potentially be ahead and talk and could potentially happen with yields, with U-turns, with different countries, with different aspects of the race. So us having that like deep conversation of like how we would react in situations, we felt very confident going into each leg, and confidence helps a ton because then you feel better and you don't feel as anxious. And so, I mean, that was a major benefit to us.
So was there any one particular piece of the preparation that you think helped you the most above all?
I think talking through as you watch scenarios of the race. So if I'm looking at a detour or a roadblock, what would we do? How would we do it? What's the best strategy? How would we then correct if something was going wrong?
It opens up those conversations for you with your partner to really kind of understand how each other's brains work in a competitive situation like that. And that's why it always helped us whenever we got to a detour or roadblock to know what decision to make. We didn't waste time talking about it. We kind of already knew the thought process of like where we would excel and where we wouldn't.
Yeah, that communication was super key. And we already had race brain before even starting the race.
Yep.
And I think there was a learning curve in the first 2 legs for a lot of the teams because it was like, oh, this is actually really hard and like really confusing and there's more details.
I like the way you said like we were already in race brain because it's true. Like the moment we submitted our casting tape and application, you're right. We were in race brain from that point forward.
Yeah.
And we just started binging shows.
Yeah.
So it seems like when you're watching it as a viewer, right? One question, we'll pause it. We'll talk about it on the podcast. Like, who would do this one? I talked to my wife. Like, would you do the roadblock? Would I do the roadblock?
That's the way to do it.
Yeah. Is there enough time though to recognize that this roadblock needs patience, for example? Like the King Candy looking for the baby one. Seemed like it required patience above all else. Like, are you able to process in that moment with the stakes being what they are? Okay, Will, you know what? This is you got to do this. It's more about patience, or do you not have the ability to plan or see it that way?
Well, I think with the finale was also a little different with that kind of roadblock, right? Because we got lucky that it was king cake and Will knowing what king cake is.
King cake. What did I say? King candy?
He's literally made it every day, every year for Mardi Gras since we started dating. So like he loves king cake. So reading the clue and knowing where we are, New Orleans, right away, it was like he's doing it. But he would have done the best because we were definitely anticipating another memory task for the other roadblock. And I felt like a little bit more confident for that. So that's ultimately why he did that. But when you think about every other leg prior, there's always those conversations. Like you read the clue, Sometimes it's very subtle as to what it may or may not be. You also check your surroundings, kind of like Trinidad or when we were in Tobago, and we could hear the music. We didn't know you'd be playing music, but maybe you were dancing to music. So there's definitely those conversations that come up, but we always knew we were going to alternate roadblocks because of that rule where you can only do 5 until your teammate catches up with roadblock count as well.
But there is a lot of patience, but I also think you have to have this level of doing it once and being comfortable not getting it on your first try and knowing that it might take you a ton of times and recognizing that before you start. Because if you go, I'm going to get it on my first try and you don't, then your brain starts to like shift. And I think if you can think that way, and then after each time you do it, rethink about it and say, what did I do wrong? How can I improve? Instead of just repeating, what's that, like the definition of crazy, like repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like you have to be able to say, I didn't do it the first time. What did I do wrong? How can I improve?
Well, it definitely seems that you guys came in the most confident. You knew the most, you had the most experience. And through talking through these interviews to the other teams, they definitely were not as big of fans. And I don't think that they were thinking about it that way. And some of them didn't even know the show. Yeah. And so I definitely think that that gave you guys that confidence. And it sounds like you had an excellent plan and you totally executed it to get to the finish line first. So James, was that moment everything that you could have dreamed of and more as a super fan?
It still doesn't feel real, to be quite honest with you, because it has been something I've manifested since I was 11 and 12 years old when the show first premiered. So when you think about that, that's what 19 years of my life now that I've put energy and emotion and passion into this dream, and then poof, it happens. And now it's like, now what? Yeah. Like, it still doesn't feel real. Like I still have the dream to do it again. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, it's everything I could have expected and more, for sure.
And did you know the engagement was coming, or was that just like your head literally just explodes at that point?
I mean, that was just like the icing on the cake for me, like whole other level. And I had no idea it was coming. I mean, truth be told, we always knew we were meant to be together. Like the moment we met, like we were like, you're my person. This is it. So we said, when do we get engaged, right? We wanted to give ourselves a 4-year window. And about the 4-year time was when we applied for the show. So we put our casting tape in and like let that kind of happen as it did. And we started talking about getting engaged. We went to look for rings together. And then when the opportunity for us, like, hi, we would love to have you be one of the teams. It wasn't even a thought anymore. Like our brain went, or at least mine, you had 2 different thoughts going into this. Mine was, okay, like, how are we going to prepare? So for the 5 weeks leading up to it, we never talked about getting engaged again. Like that was never a topic of conversation. Like we coordinated outfits for crying out loud. So I knew everything that was in Will's backpack except the ring, clearly. He never let me carry the fanny pack. Now it makes sense. And when we were in Paris, though, at the pit stop, Phil kept making comments about Paris being the city of love. Mm-hmm. And that was the first time my brain switched and I went, why is Phil talking about this? And I thought maybe, oh my gosh, is Will going to propose right now? Obviously,
no, that was a terrible day.
Was facts with us and the viewers, like this is the city of love, right? So it didn't dawn on me again after that point until the moment it happened. And it was, speechless.
And none of the teams knew either. Like it was a big secret that I had, and some of the crew knew, but none of the other teams knew. And so I think they were all just as shocked.
Say this, D'Angelo cried.
Wow. Wow.
I still give him crap for that this day. I was like, you try to act so tough with us, D'Angelo, but you have a soft spot for us.
Will, so would you have still proposed at the finale or at some point if you guys didn't win?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I said it was either going to be when we were eliminated or when we visited a country we had been to before. And that was the Philippines, but the Philippines leg was just a little too stressful that it didn't feel right. And then going into the finale, I was in my brain was just like first, second, third, whatever happens, this dream has come true. And we crossed the finish line together. So literally like couldn't have been more perfect.
Yeah. I thought I had a good proposal, but Not even close. So was it always about winning? How much of this experience was about, when you got on the race, was about winning versus, all right, we're happy to be here, this is amazing, let's just kind of see what happens with it?
I think it kind of comes in waves, right? Like, you know, the goal going into it is to win. Like, your goal is to cross that finish line. So that was always in the back of our minds. But the moment you step foot off the starting line and knowing that you're achieving this dream that you've had for so long, you switch to the focus of, I want to make sure I soak up every second of this experience, because it could be over in a blink, right? So most of it was just making sure talking with the taxi drivers, or giving it our all in every challenge that we faced or every decision that we made. That was more of the focus at the beginning. Yeah. And then I think about 4 legs into it, after we got our second first place in a row, Will and I are like, we are a strong team. Not that we doubted that for a second, but like, we're finding our momentum here. We've set our strategy in place. We're kind of aware of those social dynamics among the teams currently. And then we were like, we can do this. Like, we're going to win. Like, let's keep doing what we're doing, and we can make this a reality.
Yeah.
So coming in first in a leg mattered?
No.
Okay, selfishly as a super fan, yes, because that's one of those things that you want to check off your list, right? It's I got a first place on Amazing Race. Like, we did that, right? So it mattered to check off a goal.
For confidence,
yes.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, for like a confidence thing, kind of.
Of confidence, for sure.
But even looking at this season, like, every single leg was an equalizer where the teams were tied for first going into every single leg. The only one we weren't was Paris, and it was by 15 minutes. Like, that's nothing. So your brain is like, oh, now it literally only matters if I just don't get last place. And so when you switch your brain from like thinking of, I'm going to win every single thing, to just not getting last, major sense of calm and like a little bit more confidence that you just have to beat one team. That's the task that's in front of you.
One leg at a time, because the only leg that really matters at the end of the day is the last one.
Yep.
On the ReRACeables, you guys may not know, but there's a couple of challenges along the way.
Yes. Okay. I saw you do this with Michelle and Victoria.
So here we go.
A roadblock.
Oh, it's a roadblock. All right. This person should be a truth teller.
I'll do it.
All right, James. So which leg of the race was the best and why? You can't look at him. He can't help you on this.
Best in what way?
No. Just answer it. Answer it.
I'm like, I need context. Okay, the best and why.
Don't overthink it.
I'm not going to say the finale, because I mean, that's just an obvious choice. So the favorite, I think, because it's the first time the show had been there. So, you know, that's a very special moment for all the teams involved, or consider really like going into the Amazon rainforest. Like, that's a once in a lifetime thing. And then every task we did was incredible. Like, I loved it from start to finish, and then it ultimately being our first place. So I think that was the best.
Yeah.
So which country or cultural experience stands out the most?
Repeat that one more time. I'm sorry.
Which country or cultural experience that you got to have stands out the most when you think back?
To me, it was honestly in the Amazon. There was a lot of moments where you would interact with the women of the tribe who are around the area where you were cooking, and you literally could feel how much they wanted you to succeed. They would watch you and like give you little tips of how to do it better, and you obviously can't communicate with them with a language because you don't speak the same language, but the body language and just their smiles and their just you could literally feel how excited they were to have you there and wanted you to succeed. And there's moments where in that challenge, the kids would be playing around us and like we would get teary-eyed because it was just a beautiful experience. And a couple times James kept going, "Stop crying, we have to finish this." Because
it was if he started crying, I would have started crying.
But that whole like interacting with the indigenous tribe was like super life-changing, just because it was palpable. Like their passion for you being there was like overwhelmingly great.
And it's one of those once in 10 million lifetimes, as Cody said, but within an experience that already was a once in 10 million lifetimes. Yeah. So that one really did stand out for viewers too. Hardest part.
The sleep deprivation. I mean, like, we did as much planning and preparation as we could, but that was the one thing you really can't prepare for unless you want to be crazy and stay up for 24 hours straight and then go run like around your city for an entire day. Then maybe that can give you a little bit of an advantage, but not even.
I don't recommend that.
No, because especially those first 2 legs, right? I think it caught all of us by surprise that it was a keep on racing. And then we left really late at night from the Hollywood Bowl, had to sleep in LAX, and then fly to Trinidad and Tobago, do a night challenge, didn't sleep in another airport. So for like the first 3 or 4 days, we didn't sleep in a bed. We were always on the go. And because of that sleep deprivation, your body starts to give out on you in ways, your brain starts to turn into mush. So the sleep deprivation is definitely the hardest part.
The 2 legs that we were the most sleep deprived, ironically, were going into Bogota when we slept in the mine. I didn't sleep at all the entire time in the mine. And to be honest, me and Madison like got really close that leg because both of us weren't sleeping. So we hung out the entire night. So it was great, but very hard. And that's why we weren't able to read the clue or get the Volqueta. And another one was Paris. Going into Paris, we had just gotten off a 14-hour flight where I'm 6'6" and I like physically can't sleep on airplanes. And so it had been a good 24 hours. I get into a stick shift and like
panic mode.
You literally just like brain can't comprehend the situation because it's so exhausted.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that you were that tall when you were standing next to Gary. And I said this to Gary when I talked to him too. I thought about you guys, like, you are bigger people.
Yeah.
Planes aren't made for 6'6" people. They're taxi cabs, anything. That's another thing to kind of, anybody out there that's like 7 foot tall, don't even apply.
Good luck. You will be in so much pain. There was a taxi ride in Bogota where I was,
because we were on like a side road and it was bumper to bumper, and then there's like a bonus clip of it on YouTube, but there was an accident and there was nowhere for us to go, and we were in that taxi like for 2.5 hours. So the whole time Will had to like stretch his legs out.
Out my legs.
Yeah.
So what's the thing that you miss the most?
I think, oh my gosh, there's so many things that come to mind. I think being with the cast is the first thing that I think of, because every down time we had together, like, you don't see a lot of those moments, right? But every time we're in the airport or on airplanes or, on the riverboat in Manaus or the camper vans we slept in for the Berlin episode, like, those are moments that bring people from all walks of life with vastly different backgrounds. And we were all able to just connect and share stories and realize how much alike and yet different we were. And it just grew into this really beautiful friendship that now we say it's our family. So that's the one thing I miss, is just experiencing something like this with again, right?
I mean, but even like, I would never be friends with Gary and D'Angelo.
Like, we would never would have
They're
met
NFL,
them.
something that would normally happen. And James and D'Angelo are honestly like pretty close. Like, they talk very often, and it's kind of funny. So I mean, yeah, those relationships are great, but also just kind of being away from reality is wonderful. And just to be able to play a game for 21 days and not have to think about anything else. And just having so much joy around you and seeing the world and all of those things, like, that is something that we miss a lot.
But then to bounce off what you're saying, it's like the same thing. You're not connected. Like, you don't have your phone. Yeah. You don't have access to social media, technology, your family, or those daily comforts. So you're completely stripped of all that. And it just allows you to really live in the moment and appreciate what's around you. And like, that's something I think everyone gets so caught up in the hustle and grind of life, right? That they forget to just be in that moment. And that's something that I wish we did more of on our daily life, because you definitely got that on The Amazing Race.
Yeah. So last thing on the Roadblock, where did things go right? Where did things go wrong?
Things went very right in New Orleans. I think just having like experience in New Orleans and with Mardi Gras and the King Cake, like, me knowing all of that played so well to our benefit. Same thing with the Globe. All of our geography knowledge helped us. It was a leg, honestly, made for us as a team. It went really well there. There was a lot of other times where things just went really well. I think when things went bad was when we were tired.
Yeah.
And
self-drive.
Self-driving.
The first time was because of lack of sleep. You ultimately figured it out, and there's not enough credit for that. Like you figured it out. And then the other time was a Trabant, but that was completely out of our control in Berlin. So self-drive and sleep.
Those cars, the Trabant cars, like I don't recommend anyone driving those. It's like figuring out how to put together a computer.
Like it came with a manual.
It came with like a 6-page of like, here's the directions, and all of us were like, okay, like this is a lot.
Okay, let's talk about pre-race. James, how did your 9th or 10th audition here put you over the top? Wait, what was it?
I honestly don't think that I did anything different. Like, you know, earlier before I even met Will, I had auditioned with like my mom, my dad, my sister, some roommates of mine, a best friend of mine. The only time I ever got close was with my mom. My mom and I, you know, had phone interviews. We were going to do the finals casting, and it just never panned out. And then that's when I was like, this is my person. Like now I don't want to like audition with anyone. Like this is who I would love to experience that with. And we just kept applying. I think the thing with casting is like you need to really just be 100% yourself and just super authentic. And I think we did that with every audition tape. But like anything in life, like it's all about timing. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And I think for us at this particular moment in our lives, the timing worked. Everything fell into place as it was. So I don't think I ever did anything different. Obviously, it was a huge test of patience, but I that's it. Like for anyone who applies and wants to keep applying, like I totally support you doing that. Just don't ever steer away from who you are at your core. Like be who you are, and like that's all that really matters. And don't try to put on a show.
Our friends, after they watch us on The Amazing Race, are like, "Oh my God, this is y'all." Like. We say babe all the time. We like are goofy all the time.
They're like an old married couple.
Yes, like our relationship is the same as you would see it on TV. We argue about dishes. We argue about cleaning. We argue about all these like random things. And we're just goofy all the time. Like that's definitely us.
Yep.
There was an authenticity that came through with you guys with each of the interviews, honestly, that I've done. And the one also like Leo and Alana, like their dynamic really stood out. When I left that interview, I was like, wow, no brainer why they got cast. Like it just makes sense when you're that authentic and yourself. So, but it's that time. Wait a minute.
Oh no.
Another.
What is it?
Oh, it's a detour.
Ooh, okay.
Oh, it's boys or girls?
Girls.
Let's do girls.
All right. So which girl or girls did you get along with the best and why?
I mean, honestly, all of them. Like all of them. But I would say Michelle and Victoria for sure. Like I think we complement each other really well. Like Michelle and I are very loud and kooky and expressive.
Extroverted.
Whereas Victoria and Will are a little bit more like
me and Victoria would sit together and do like Sudoku puzzles. Like that's kind of like our like calm, like introvertedness.
While Michelle and I are like, blah, 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 like runs and like, you know.
Yeah. So we got along really well with Michelle and Victoria from the get-go.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
So who was your favorite other person from the cast? I know it's going to be a hard question, but who was your favorite?
Like during the experience or just in general?
In general.
Honestly, like we always knew we were going to be best friends with Leo and Alana. Like it's still funny to me that people think we hate them, but we do not hate Leo and Alana. Like, love them. Like we're very similar. And I think we knew that. And that's why they were so threatening to us while running The Amazing Race.
Yeah.
And it just carried over into this beautiful friendship. Like Leo and I talk all the time. And yeah, I would say them for sure.
Yeah.
But we love the whole cast. Like we love everybody.
Yes.
So last one, if you were on a second race, which girl would you partner with from this race and why?
To be 100% honest,
Please.
like people don't give Michelle enough credit for how good she is at things. She excelled at every task besides directions.
Yep.
And so if I were running the race with Michelle, and like, because Michelle and James are very similar with their energy, I feel like me and her would do so well together and complement each other in ways that like James and I complement each other. Or honestly, Hung, I think me and Hung could do really well too. Who would you choose?
I'm gonna say Kelly. I love her. We conversations when we were in the mine, and we're both Cancer, so we're both very emotional, very passionate. And I think putting those two types of personality types together, if you're passionate about something and have a common goal, like you can be unstoppable. And I think because of her athleticism and just everything she's accomplished in her life, she's so successful, so like dedicated to everything that she puts her mind to. I could benefit from that as a teammate. And then I balance her out with just the knowledge and passion for the entire race.
Yeah.
So I would say Kelly.
That's a good choice.
Both good choices. Let's talk about another choice that you guys made, the alliance. Right? Was it by chance that the five of you became it, or was it planned, or did it just kind of come together when you were all in the mine in that moment? Talk me through how that was kind of born.
The Mine 5 was only supposed to be in Bogota. Like, it wasn't a thing that we
never saw it being long term.
No. And I think leaving the mine, we were just like, oh yeah, let's just be the 5 teams and let's get to the next leg of the race and stay at the top. And I think it kind of just kept going. And Gary and D'Angelo were the two that really kept hammering it into the other 4 teams. And in an effort to like not piss anybody off or to make anybody upset because of yields, because of U-turns, you don't say no to people when they're like, let's work together. You're like, oh yeah, sure, let's work together. But for us, the Mine 5 was definitely only that one leg thing that just kind of kept going, not by choice.
But you know what's funny? Like, moment in Bogota where I feel like the Mine 5 really had any sort of significant moment to help each other, right? Sure, D'Angelo and Gary told us tightrope before the roadblock, but even then, like, those aren't significant enough moments where like we were all able to really work together. So it was just easy to do that in the market. So naturally, because I think that was like fresh on everyone's mind, we all just naturally would be like, let's go get this together. Let's go get this together. But it was never supposed to be long term. And then I think when we used the U-turn, it's kind of when it kind of perpetuated that perception even more, because people thanked us, like, thank you for using the U-turn. So in their brain, it's now going, okay, Will and James looked out for us.
What kept you, the two of you, Hung and Chi and Riley and Madison, so close?
I think we connected really early on, the 3 teams, and like in the race, we kept seeing each other at airports all the time. We kept having really good conversations at the goal of making the finish line. So it just kind of worked, and it was definitely our strategy to try and work with 2 other teams.
It was a great strategy. Kudos to you guys for doing that. So you end up having this strategy that kind of, it seems like it came out of nowhere. It wasn't something you necessarily prepared for, right? The alliance, is that right?
No, the alliance we definitely prepared for, because if you go back and rewatch seasons from the very beginning, there are always instances in a season where they'll do whatever they can to have a lead over the others, plan or not, but they just had a close working relationship. So when we saw how well that worked to their benefit, why isn't this something we see more of? Why do we not go into season 32? Then let's make that work. Because if you can give yourself a 1 out of 11 odds to a 1 out of 3 odds, do it.
Yep.
Successful than I think we anticipated, and more successful than I think viewers would have wanted, right? So
a lot of time spent at airports where you have to book your own flight. But for us, every leg was an equalizer, and that affected the social dynamics a lot. So it became more important to create your own advantages in the race, because if you're all starting in first place, it becomes very just do well. You can't just do well in a leg. You actually have to have things that the alliance definitely played a good role in helping us get to the final 3.
But also our preparation to know like what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
So do you think it'll change the dynamics of how people race in future seasons?
I don't know, because I've talked to some former racers too who are always like, oh, we had alliances on our season. It just never really played out because it wasn't like a long-term strategy per se. So it may or may not, but I always think alliances or that type of strategy has been in the race. You just saw it more on the forefront this season.
Yeah, because it worked. I mean, the final 5 was the Mind 5. The final 3 was you kind of can't not put that in.
Is there anything if you were re-engineering the race, is there anything that you would do to change it that you think would make it maybe better or a little bit different?
I feel like why fix something that's not broke,
Yeah.
right? Like this, it's been around for 32 seasons. It's going into its 20th year in 2021. Obviously, they always try something new. And I think that's repetitive when they tried new things, just to keep it a little fresh. Like bringing the yield back was fun. Like it was 11. So I don't think I can think of anything. I love the show for what it is.
Hi, wife.
Hi, wife.
Hi! Congrats, guys.
Thank you.
We were cheering for you the whole time.
Oh,
Thank you.
So excited. All right, I'll let you.
Yeah, just wait, I forgot the last clue.
Oh,
Oh,
All right. Last thing, guys. I appreciate again your time and
of course.
okay, I'm ready. Route info. I knew
yes,
it.
root info. So what's next for you guys? Right? You win the amazing
The
race,
wedding.
win $1 million, you have all this excitement. You've waited 2 years for this. COVID's happening, but what's next? Travel-wise, kids, wedding.
Definitely the next step is our wedding. We want to
Adopt babies.
and start a family and yeah.
And the $1 million.
Damn you, Zoom. All right, gentlemen. Well, that's all I have. I just want to say thank you for being on the ReRACeables, taking the time.
Of course.
Appreciate the support. I know you guys said that you watched some. I really appreciate that. The Amazing Race has been an amazing experience for me and my wife and our friends too. Kind of creating this podcast and really deep diving into it and having as much fun as possible. And that's in part because of you guys and the whole amazing cast. So thank you so much for being on the show, and good luck with everything with your wedding and future. And we'll always be rooting for you here at the podcast. So
Thank you so much.
take care, guys.